Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. These words from Marcus Aurelius remind us that our thoughts shape our reality more than we often realize. But what happens when those thoughts become chains, limiting beliefs that hold us back from reaching our full potential? Today, we're diving into the heart of Stoicism to uncover how this ancient philosophy offers a roadmap for breaking free from those mental barriers. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to endure hardship, it empowers us to take action, to reframe our thinking, and to recognize that our beliefs are only as powerful as the actions they inspire. What if your biggest limitation isn't your circumstances, but your mindset? In this video, we'll explore key Stoic principles like cognitive reframing, resilience, and the dichotomy of control tools that can help you crush those limiting beliefs and step into a life of relentless, purposeful action. Let's begin this journey together. Stoicism teaches us that the first step to crushing limiting beliefs is understanding what we can and cannot control. This principle, known as the dichotomy of control, is at the core of Stoic philosophy. It's about recognizing that some things are within our power, our thoughts, actions, and choices, while others, like the weather, other people's opinions, or external events, are not. When we try to control what's beyond our reach, we set ourselves up for frustration, anxiety, and ultimately failure. But when we focus on what we can influence, we reclaim our power and free ourselves from the mental chains that hold us back. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it simply, "Some things are within our power while others are not." He urged us to direct our energy only toward what lies within our control, our judgments, desires, and actions. Everything else, let it go. This isn't about giving up or being passive. It's about channeling your efforts where they actually make a difference. Think about it. How often do we waste time worrying about things we can't change, like what someone said about us or whether we'll get that promotion? These are external factors, and no amount of stress or overthinking will alter them. What we can change, however, is how we respond, how we choose to think, feel, and act in the face of these challenges. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your project. You can't control their opinion or their words, but you can control how you react. Do you let their critique shake your confidence, or do you take it as an opportunity to improve? Do you dwell on their judgment, or do you focus on what you can learn from the experience? This shift in focus from what's outside your control to what's within it is where true power lies. It's where limiting beliefs begin to crumble because you're no longer giving energy to things that don't serve you. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to think about your own life. What are 3 things you can control right now? Maybe it's your attitude toward a difficult situation, the effort you put into a goal, or the way you choose to spend your time. Write them down. By identifying what's truly within your power, you're taking the first step toward breaking free from the beliefs that limit you. This is the essence of Stoic action, relentlessly focusing on what you can do rather than being paralyzed by what you can't. What if every obstacle you face is actually a chance to practice virtue? This question lies at the heart of Stoic cognitive reframing, a powerful tool for transforming the way we perceive challenges. The Stoics believed that life's difficulties aren't just random setbacks, they're opportunities to cultivate resilience, wisdom, and even gratitude. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, they saw them as invitations to grow. This shift in perspective isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. It's about training your mind to see the hidden potential in every difficulty, turning what feels like a burden into a stepping stone. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it this way: "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Think about that for a moment. Just as lifting weights builds muscle, facing challenges builds mental strength. Every time you encounter a setback, whether it's a missed opportunity, a personal failure, or even a global crisis, you're being presented with a chance to practice virtues like patience, courage, and perseverance. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship, they embraced it as a teacher, a guide that could shape them into better versions of themselves. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. He didn't write his famous work Meditations in a peaceful retreat or a quiet library. He wrote it during the chaos of war while leading an empire on the brink of collapse. Instead of letting the stress and uncertainty overwhelm him, he used those moments to reflect, to reframe his struggles, and to find meaning in the midst of chaos. His journal wasn't just a personal outlet, it was a testament to the power of cognitive reframing. He turned the battlefield into a classroom, using every challenge as an opportunity to deepen his understanding of himself and the world around him. So how can you apply this in your own life? Start by identifying a current challenge, something that feels like a roadblock. Maybe it's a project at work that's overwhelming you, or a relationship that's hit a rough patch. Now ask yourself, what can this teach me? How can it help me grow? If you're feeling stuck, try reframing it as a chance to practice patience. If you're facing criticism, see it as an opportunity to practice humility and self-reflection. Even the smallest shift in perspective can transform how you approach the situation, turning frustration into fuel for growth. Here's a simple exercise to try. Write down one challenge you're facing right now. Then list 3 ways it could help you grow, whether it's building resilience, improving a skill, or strengthening a relationship. By reframing the obstacle as an opportunity, you're not just changing your mindset, you're reclaiming your power. This is the essence of Stoic action, seeing every challenge not as a curse, but as a catalyst for becoming the best version of yourself. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. Stoicism teaches us to act now. This isn't just a call to action, it's a profound reminder that the present moment is the only place where real change happens. When we dwell on past mistakes or obsess over future outcomes, we create mental barriers that hold us back. Limiting beliefs thrive in the shadows of regret and anxiety, but they dissolve in the light of presence. Stoicism invites us to step into the here and now, where we have the power to shape our lives with intention and clarity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." This is the essence of living in the present, giving your full attention to the task at hand, no matter how small or mundane it may seem. The Stoics understood that the present moment is where life unfolds, where decisions are made, and where progress is built. By focusing on what's directly in front of us, we free ourselves from the weight of past failures and the uncertainty of the future. Think about how often we sabotage ourselves by replaying old mistakes or worrying about what might go wrong. These mental habits don't just drain our energy, they reinforce limiting beliefs. "I failed before, so I'll fail again." Or, "What if I'm not good enough?" These thoughts keep us stuck, but they lose their grip when we anchor ourselves in the present. The Stoics didn't deny the reality of the past or the unpredictability of the future. They simply chose not to let those things dictate their actions. They understood that the only moment we truly control is this one. Let's bring this into a modern context. Procrastination is a perfect example of how we let the future paralyze us. We tell ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I need everything to be perfect before I begin." But the truth is, progress doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. The next time you feel stuck, try this. Focus on the very next step, no matter how small. Instead of worrying about finishing the entire project, focus on writing the first sentence. Instead of dreading a difficult conversation, focus on preparing one clear point to share. By breaking things down into manageable actions, you bypass the mental roadblocks that keep you from moving forward. Here's a challenge for you. What's one action you can take today to move closer to your goals? It doesn't have to be grand or life-changing. It just has to be something you can do right now. Maybe it's sending that email you've been putting off, or taking 10 minutes to meditate, or even just reflecting on what you're grateful for in this moment. The key is to act with intention, to show up fully in the present, and to trust that each small step builds momentum. Living in the present isn't about ignoring the past or dismissing the future. It's about reclaiming your power to act here and now. When you focus on what's within your control in this moment, you break free from the limiting beliefs that keep you stuck. You become the architect of your own life, building it one intentional action at a time. This is the power of presence, and it's a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The past doesn't define you, and the future doesn't own you. The only moment that truly matters is this one. Use it wisely. Stoics remind us that even our strongest beliefs are not permanent. This simple yet profound truth is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Everything is temporary. The challenges we face, the emotions we feel, even the beliefs we hold, they are all fleeting. This isn't meant to diminish their importance, but to remind us that clinging too tightly to any idea or expectation can become a prison of our own making. Limiting beliefs, in particular, thrive when we treat them as permanent truths. But what if we saw them for what they truly are: temporary constructs of the mind, shaped by our experiences, fears, and assumptions? This shift in perspective can be liberating, opening the door to growth and transformation. Epictetus, the Stoic teacher who endured slavery and hardship, understood this deeply. He said, "Remember that you are an actor in a play, which is as the playwright wants it to be, short if he wants it short, long if he wants it long." In other words, our circumstances, our beliefs, even our very lives are part of a larger, ever-changing narrative. By recognizing the impermanent nature of these things, we free ourselves from the illusion that they define us. This doesn't mean we stop caring or striving. It means we stop letting temporary conditions dictate our sense of self-worth or potential. Take Seneca, for example. In his letters, he often reflected on the brevity of life, urging his readers to make the most of their time. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This insight isn't meant to provoke fear, but to inspire action. If life is short, why waste it clinging to beliefs that limit us? Why let temporary setbacks or doubts hold us back from pursuing what truly matters? Seneca's words remind us that impermanence isn't a reason to despair, it's a call to live more fully, more intentionally. Consider this: how many beliefs have you held in the past that no longer serve you? Maybe it was a fear of failure that kept you from pursuing a dream, or a belief that you weren't good enough to try something new. At the time, those beliefs felt real, even unshakable. But looking back, you might see how they've faded or changed. This is the power of impermanence. It reminds us that change is not only possible but inevitable. What feels like a permanent limitation today might be nothing more than a fleeting thought tomorrow. Here's a practical way to apply this idea. Think of a belief that's currently holding you back. Now imagine it as a cloud passing through the sky. It's there for a moment, but it won't stay forever. How does that change the way you feel about it? By seeing your beliefs as temporary, you give yourself permission to question them, to challenge them, and ultimately to let them go. This isn't about denying their impact, it's about reclaiming your power to choose what you hold onto. So take a moment to reflect. What's one belief you once held that no longer serves you? How did it shape your choices, and how did you move beyond it? By recognizing the impermanence of our beliefs, we open ourselves to new possibilities, new ways of thinking, and new paths forward. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, not just enduring life's changes, but embracing them as opportunities to grow. The next time you feel stuck, remember, even the strongest beliefs are temporary, and that's where your freedom begins. What would your life look like if you acted with unshakable courage? Imagine standing up for yourself in a situation where you'd normally stay silent, or pursuing a goal despite the fear of failure. Courage isn't just about grand, heroic acts, it's about the small, everyday choices that align with your values. In Stoicism, courage is one of the 4 cardinal virtues alongside wisdom, justice, and temperance. These virtues aren't just abstract ideals, they're practical tools for dismantling the limiting beliefs that hold us back. When we act with courage, we challenge the doubts that whisper, "You can't do this." When we choose wisdom, we silence the fear that says, "What if I fail?" Virtue in Stoic philosophy is the highest good, not because it's easy, but because it's transformative. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be." Be one. This isn't just a call to action, it's a reminder that virtue isn't something we debate, it's something we do. Every time we act with integrity, every time we choose courage over comfort, we chip away at the beliefs that limit us. Virtue isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up even when it's hard and choosing to live in alignment with what truly matters. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and someone dismisses your idea. The old belief might whisper, "Don't rock the boat, just stay quiet." But what if instead you spoke up with courage and clarity? What if you trusted your voice, even if it shook? That's Stoic virtue in action. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite the fear. Each time you do this, you reinforce a new belief. I am capable, I am worthy, I can handle this. Now, consider wisdom, another Stoic virtue. Wisdom isn't just about knowing things, it's about seeing clearly. It's the ability to discern what's within your control and what isn't, to recognize when fear is holding you back and to choose a better path. When you act with wisdom, you stop letting limiting beliefs dictate your decisions. Instead, you ask yourself, is this belief serving me? Is it true? And if the answer is no, you let it go. Here's a practical exercise to try. Think of a limiting belief you're struggling with right now. Maybe it's, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed." Now identify one Stoic virtue that could help you overcome it. If self-doubt is holding you back, choose courage. If you're stuck in indecision, choose wisdom. Write down one small action you can take today to embody that virtue. It could be as simple as having a difficult conversation, setting a boundary, or taking the first step toward a goal. The key is to act not perfectly, but purposefully. Stoicism teaches us that virtue isn't just a lofty ideal, it's a daily practice. It's the courage to face our fears, the wisdom to see through our doubts, and the commitment to keep moving forward even when it's hard. By aligning our actions with these virtues, we don't just break free from limiting beliefs, we build a life of meaning and purpose. So, what's one virtue you want to cultivate today? And how will it help you become the person you're meant to be? Stoics use negative visualization to confront their fears head-on. This ancient practice, known as premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, isn't about dwelling on the negative or inviting pessimism into your life. It's about mentally preparing for adversity so that when it comes, you're not caught off guard. By imagining the worst-case scenarios, you strip them of their power to intimidate you. You realize that even the most daunting challenges are survivable and often not as catastrophic as your mind makes them out to be. This exercise isn't about expecting the worst, it's about building resilience so you can face anything with clarity and calm. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. In other words, when we prepare for hardship, we reduce its emotional impact. It's like rehearsing a difficult conversation or visualizing a challenging presentation. The more you prepare, the less fear grips you when the moment arrives. Negative visualization isn't about living in fear. It's about living with courage, knowing you've already weathered the storm in your mind. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're worried about losing your job. Instead of letting that fear paralyze you, you take a few minutes to visualize the worst-case scenario. What would you do if it happened? Maybe you'd update your resume, reach out to your network, or explore new opportunities. By thinking through these steps, you're not just reducing anxiety, you're empowering yourself to take action. The fear of the unknown loses its grip because you've already mapped out a path forward. This is the power of negative visualization. It turns fear into preparation, uncertainty into clarity. Here's an exercise to try. Take a moment to think about a fear or worry that's been weighing on you. It could be something personal, like the fear of rejection, or something practical, like the fear of failure in a project. Now imagine the worst-case scenario. What would happen? How would you respond? Would it really be as devastating as your mind is making it out to be? Often you'll find that even the worst outcomes are manageable. You'll realize that you have the strength, the resources, and the resilience to handle whatever comes your way. The Stoics didn't practice negative visualization to become pessimists. They did it to become realists. They understood that life is unpredictable, and that by preparing for adversity, they could face it with equanimity. This practice isn't about expecting the worst. It's about being ready for anything. It's about knowing that even in the face of hardship, you have the tools to persevere. So the next time fear creeps in, don't shy away from it. Confront it head-on, visualize it, and prepare for it. You might just find that what you feared isn't so frightening after all. Stoics believe that seeking approval from others is a trap, one that keeps us chained to the opinions and expectations of people who don't live our lives or carry our burdens. Imagine spending your days chasing likes, compliments, or the fleeting satisfaction of someone else's nod of approval. What happens when that validation disappears? You're left feeling hollow, unsure of your worth, and dependent on external sources to feel whole. This is the illusion of external validation, and Stoicism offers a powerful antidote, the practice of finding worth within ourselves. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly: if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. In other words, stop worrying about what others think of you. Their opinions are not only beyond your control, they're irrelevant to your true value. The moment you tie your self-worth to external validation, you give away your power. You become a prisoner to others' judgments, and your sense of self becomes as fragile as their approval. But when you shift your focus inward, when you cultivate a deep sense of self-respect and integrity, you free yourself from this cycle. You become unshakable. Consider the modern parallel of social media. How often do we measure our worth by the number of followers, likes, or comments we receive? We post, we refresh, we wait for validation that never feels like enough, and when it doesn't come, we question our value. Stoicism challenges this mindset by asking a simple but profound question: why would you let strangers on the internet, or even people in your own life, determine how you feel about yourself? Your worth isn't defined by their approval. It's defined by your actions, your character, and your ability to live in alignment with your values. Here's the practical truth: external validation is a moving target. No matter how much praise or recognition you receive, it will never be enough to fill the void if you don't first believe in your own worth. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that true confidence comes from within, from knowing who you are and standing firm in that knowledge, regardless of what others think. This isn't about arrogance or dismissing feedback. It's about recognizing that your value isn't up for debate. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect, where in your life do you seek external validation? Is it in your career, your relationships, or your online presence? Now ask yourself, what would it look like to shift that focus inward? Instead of waiting for someone else to tell you you're good enough, what if you affirmed it for yourself? What if you measured your success not by others' opinions, but by your own standards, by the effort you put in, the kindness you show, and the integrity you uphold? Here's a simple exercise to try. Write down one area where you often seek external validation. Then, list 3 ways you can practice self-approval in that area. Maybe it's celebrating your progress even if no one else notices. Maybe it's setting a boundary when someone's opinion starts to weigh too heavily on you. Or maybe it's simply reminding yourself that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's judgment. Each time you choose self-validation over external approval, you take a step toward freedom, toward a life rooted in your own truth, not someone else's fleeting opinion. Stoicism doesn't just teach us to stop seeking approval from others. It shows us how to build a foundation of self-respect that no one can shake. When you stop looking outward for validation, you start living from a place of inner strength. And that's where true freedom begins. What if your desires are the root of your limitations? It's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's one the Stoics ask themselves often. They believed that many of the chains holding us back aren't imposed by the world, they're forged by our own unchecked desires. Whether it's the longing for approval, the craving for success, or the need for perfection, these desires can become invisible barriers, shaping our beliefs and dictating our actions. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote, the discipline of desire. This isn't about denying what you want. It's about aligning your desires with what's truly within your control. When you do this, you free yourself from the endless cycle of disappointment and frustration that comes from chasing what you can't have. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. What he's pointing to is the heart of Stoic wisdom. Our desires often lead us astray because they're tied to external outcomes, things we can't control. Wanting a promotion, for example, isn't inherently wrong. But when your happiness depends on it, when you tie your worth to whether or not it happens, you're setting yourself up for suffering. The Stoics teach us to redirect our desires inward toward things we can control: our effort, our attitude, our character. This shift doesn't just bring peace, it brings freedom. Let's look at Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices. He wrote extensively about temperance, the practice of moderating our desires. Seneca wasn't advocating for a life of deprivation. He was urging us to examine what we truly need. It is not the man who has too little, he wrote, but the man who craves more that is poor. This idea is as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Think about how often we chase after things: more money, more recognition, more possessions, only to find that they don't bring the lasting satisfaction we hoped for. The problem isn't the desire itself, it's the belief that these things will fill a void they were never meant to fill. Here's a practical way to apply this. Take a moment to reflect on your own desires. What's one thing you're chasing right now? A goal, an outcome, a validation. Now ask yourself, is this desire within my control? If it's tied to something external, like someone else's opinion or a specific result, how can you reframe it? Instead of wanting the promotion, for example, focus on the effort you're putting into your work. Instead of craving approval, aim to act with integrity, regardless of what others think. This isn't about giving up on your goals, it's about aligning your desires with what you can actually influence. Now, let's make this personal. Think about a desire you've been clinging to, one that feels heavy or unattainable. Maybe it's the need to be liked by everyone or the pressure to achieve a certain level of success. What would it feel like to let that go, not to stop caring, but to stop letting it control you? By releasing the grip of this desire, you create space for something far more powerful, self-mastery. You start to realize that your worth isn't tied to external outcomes. It's rooted in who you are and how you choose to show up in the world. So, here's a challenge for you. Identify one desire you can let go of today, one that's holding you back more than it's helping you. It doesn't have to be a monumental shift. It could be as simple as releasing the need to have the last word in an argument or letting go of the expectation that everything has to go perfectly. Write it down and then ask yourself, what would it look like to replace this desire with something within my control? Maybe it's focusing on your effort rather than the outcome, or choosing to act with kindness even when it's hard. Each time you do this, you're practicing the discipline of desire, and that's where true freedom begins. The Stoics didn't just teach us to endure life's challenges, they showed us how to transform them. By aligning our desires with what's within our control, we break free from the limiting beliefs that keep us stuck. We stop chasing illusions and start living with intention. This isn't about settling for less, it's about choosing more clarity, more peace, and ultimately, more power over your own life. So, what's one desire you can let go of today to take a step toward that freedom? Stoics know that massive change begins with a single step. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when facing a mountain of challenges or a long list of goals. We tell ourselves, I'll never get there, or it's too much to handle. But Stoicism teaches us that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's built through small, consistent actions. These tiny steps taken daily create a ripple effect that can shatter even the most stubborn limiting beliefs. When we focus on what we can do right now, rather than the enormity of the task ahead, we reclaim our power to act. Momentum builds, and suddenly the impossible starts to feel within reach. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, captured this idea perfectly when he said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach." While this might seem like advice about relationships, at its core, it's about progress. It's about the small, daily choices we make to grow, whether that's through learning, teaching, or simply showing up. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger picture of who we become. The Stoics didn't wait for the perfect moment to act. They understood that the moment to act is always now, even if it's just a single step forward. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're trying to overcome a limiting belief like, "I'm not disciplined enough to achieve my goals." Instead of trying to overhaul your entire routine overnight, you start with one small action, writing down 3 things you're grateful for every morning. This simple habit doesn't just build gratitude, it builds consistency. Over time, that small act of journaling becomes a foundation for other habits, like setting daily intentions or reflecting on your progress. What began as a 5-minute practice grows into a powerful tool for self-awareness and growth. That's the magic of small actions. They compound, creating a momentum that carries you forward. Here's a practical question to consider. What's one small action you can take today to challenge a limiting belief? Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk to clear your mind, or writing down one thing you're proud of accomplishing this week. It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It just has to be something you can do right now. By focusing on the present moment, you bypass the overwhelm that often keeps us stuck. You prove to yourself that change is possible, one step at a time. The Stoics understood that life is made up of moments, and it's in these moments that we shape our destiny. When we commit to small, consistent actions, we're not just building habits, we're building resilience, confidence, and a deeper understanding of our own potential. So, what's your next small step? It might not feel like much in the moment, but remember, every great journey begins with a single, deliberate step forward. Stoics see failure not as an end, but as a teacher. It's a perspective that might feel counterintuitive in a world obsessed with perfection and success, but it's one that lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Fear of failure often paralyzes us, whispering, "What if you're not good enough?" or "What if everyone sees you fall?" These fears become the seeds of limiting beliefs, convincing us to play it safe, to avoid risks, and to stay within the bounds of what feels comfortable. But Stoicism challenges this mindset, urging us to see failure not as something to avoid, but as an essential part of growth. Every stumble, every setback, every mistake, these are not signs of weakness. They're stepping stones on the path to becoming stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured slavery and hardship, offered a simple yet profound insight. No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. What he's saying is that growth takes time, and failure is an inevitable part of the process. You don't plant a seed and expect it to bear fruit overnight. You water it, you tend to it, and sometimes, despite your best efforts, it withers. But that doesn't mean you stop planting. Each failure teaches you something about the soil, the weather, or even your own methods. And with each lesson, you become a better gardener. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. As a Roman emperor, he faced countless challenges, including military defeats that could have broken his spirit. But instead of letting those failures define him, he used them as opportunities to reflect and grow. In his personal writings, he often reminded himself that adversity was a chance to practice virtue, to cultivate patience, resilience, and humility. Even in the face of defeat, he found value, not because he enjoyed failure, but because he understood its role in shaping a stronger, more capable leader. His failures didn't diminish him, they refined him. Now, let's bring this into your own life. Think about a time when you failed. Maybe it was a project that didn't go as planned, a goal you didn't achieve, or a relationship that fell apart. At the time, it probably felt devastating, but looking back, what did that experience teach you? Did it show you where you needed to improve? Did it reveal a strength you didn't know you had? Stoicism invites us to shift our perspective, to see failure not as a dead end, but as a detour that leads us somewhere we need to go. It's not about pretending failure doesn't hurt, it's about finding meaning in the pain. Here's a practical exercise to try. Take a moment to reflect on a past failure. Write it down and then ask yourself, what did this experience teach me? Maybe it taught you to prepare more thoroughly, to communicate more clearly, or to trust yourself even when things don't go as planned. By identifying the lesson, you're not just reframing the failure, you're reclaiming it. You're turning what felt like a loss into a gain, a moment of growth that can guide you forward. Stoicism doesn't promise that failure will stop hurting, but it does offer a way to make that pain meaningful. When you see failure as a teacher, you stop fearing it. You start embracing it, knowing that every misstep is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become the person you're meant to be. So the next time you face failure, don't let it define you. Let it refine you, because the truth is you're not failing, you're growing, and that's where the real power lies. What if the key to overcoming limitations lies in looking inward? The Stoics believed that true progress begins with self-awareness, and one of their most powerful tools for achieving this was daily self-reflection. This practice isn't just about thinking back on your day. It's about shining a light on the beliefs, habits, and thought patterns that shape your life. By taking the time to examine your actions, reactions, and decisions, you start to see the invisible chains that hold you back. Self-reflection is like holding up a mirror to your mind, revealing the limiting beliefs you've accepted as truth and giving you the chance to challenge them. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it this way: each day acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, indeed against other misfortunes as well. And after you have run over many thoughts, select one to be thoroughly digested that day. What he's saying is that self-reflection isn't just a passive exercise, it's an active process of growth. It's about identifying the beliefs that no longer serve you and replacing them with ones that do. When you take the time to examine your life, you're not just observing, you're transforming. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you've had a rough day at work. Maybe a project didn't go as planned, or a conversation left you feeling undervalued. Instead of brushing it off or dwelling on it, you take 5 minutes to reflect. What thoughts came up during that moment? Did you tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed"? These are the kinds of limiting beliefs that self-reflection helps you uncover. By writing them down in a journal or simply acknowledging them, you take the first step toward dismantling them. You start to see that these beliefs aren't facts, they're stories you've been telling yourself, and you have the power to rewrite them. Here's a practical way to make this a habit. Set aside 5 minutes at the end of each day to reflect. Ask yourself, what went well today, what didn't, what beliefs or thoughts held me back? Write down your answers and be honest with yourself. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns, certain beliefs that keep resurfacing, certain reactions that aren't serving you. This isn't about judgment or self-criticism, it's about awareness, and awareness is the first step toward change. So, let's make this personal. Take a moment to think about your day. What's one belief that came up for you, something you told yourself that might not be true? Maybe it's, "I'm not smart enough to figure this out," or "I'll never be able to change." Now ask yourself, is this belief serving me, or is it holding me back? By shining a light on these thoughts, you're not just reflecting, you're reclaiming your power. You're choosing to challenge the stories that limit you and replace them with ones that empower you. Self-reflection is more than a habit, it's a practice of freedom. It's about taking ownership of your thoughts, your beliefs, and ultimately your life. So, what's one belief you're ready to examine tonight? Because every time you look inward, you take a step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. Stoics believe that fear is a choice, not a fact. It's a powerful statement, one that challenges the way we typically think about fear. We often treat fear as something inevitable, something that happens to us. But Stoicism teaches us that fear is a creation of the mind, a story we tell ourselves about what might happen. And just as we can create that story, we can also rewrite it. Fear, when left unchecked, becomes the fuel for limiting beliefs. It whispers, "You can't do this," or "What if you fail?" But the Stoics remind us that fear only has as much power as we give it. By confronting it head-on, we strip it of its ability to control us. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, offered a profound insight into fear. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. What he's pointing to is the heart of Stoic wisdom. Fear isn't about the external world, it's about how we interpret it. The same situation can paralyze one person and energize another. The difference lies in perspective. When we see fear as a product of our own thoughts, we take back control. We stop being victims of circumstance and start becoming architects of our own courage. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about public speaking, a fear so common it even has its own name, glossophobia. For many, the mere thought of standing in front of an audience triggers anxiety, self-doubt, and a flood of what-ifs. What if I forget my words? What if people laugh at me? But what if, instead of focusing on those fears, you reframed the experience? What if you saw public speaking not as a threat, but as an opportunity to share your ideas, to connect with others, or to grow your confidence? This shift in perspective doesn't eliminate the fear entirely, but it changes how you respond to it. you start to see the fear not as a barrier but as a signal, a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, which is exactly where growth happens. Here's a practical exercise to try. Identify one fear you've been avoiding, something that feels daunting but important. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, asking for help, or pursuing a goal that feels out of reach. Now write down the worst-case scenario. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Once you've done that, ask yourself, is this fear based on facts, or is it a story I'm telling myself? Often, you'll find that the fear is far bigger in your mind than it is in reality. By naming it, by breaking it down, you take away its power to intimidate you. The Stoics didn't just teach us to face fear, they showed us how to dissolve it. They understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act despite it. When we confront our fears, we're not just overcoming a momentary challenge, we're building a foundation of resilience that can carry us through any obstacle. So, what's one fear you're ready to confront this week? Whether it's big or small, take that step. Because every time you face your fear, you're not just breaking a limiting belief, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than you think. And that's where true freedom begins. Stoics use gratitude to transform their perspective on life. While it might seem like a simple practice, gratitude is one of the most powerful tools in Stoic philosophy for breaking free from limiting beliefs. When we focus on what we lack, whether it's time, resources, or opportunities, we reinforce a mindset of scarcity. But gratitude shifts our attention to what we already have, helping us see abundance where we once saw only limitations. It's not about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing the value in our present circumstances, no matter how small or ordinary they may seem. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, captured this idea beautifully when he wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient." What he's pointing to is the transformative power of gratitude. By appreciating what we have, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting more. We stop measuring our worth by what we lack and start finding fulfillment in what's already within our grasp. This shift doesn't just bring peace, it opens our eyes to opportunities we might have otherwise overlooked. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're feeling stuck in your career, convinced that you'll never achieve your goals. Instead of dwelling on what you don't have, a higher salary, a better title, or more recognition, you take a moment to reflect on what you do have. Maybe it's a supportive colleague, a skill you've recently improved, or even the simple fact that you have a job that allows you to learn and grow. By focusing on these things, you're not just practicing gratitude, you're rewiring your mindset to see possibilities instead of obstacles. What once felt like a dead end now feels like a stepping stone. Here's a practical way to make this a habit. Start a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. They can be as simple as a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or a moment of quiet in a busy day. Over time, this practice will train your mind to look for the good, even in difficult situations. It's not about ignoring the challenges, it's about balancing them with a sense of appreciation for what's going right. This isn't just a feel-good exercise, it's a practice of empowerment. When you focus on what's abundant in your life, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as someone with the resources to thrive. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to think about your own life. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? Maybe it's the support of a loved one, the opportunity to learn something new, or even the resilience you've shown in the face of challenges. Write them down. By acknowledging these things, you're not just practicing gratitude, you're actively dismantling the limiting beliefs that tell you life is lacking. You're reminding yourself that even in the midst of struggle, there is value, there is growth, and there is always something to be grateful for. Gratitude isn't just a practice, it's a perspective. It's a way of seeing the world that shifts us from scarcity to abundance, from limitation to possibility. And as the Stoics understood, that shift is where true freedom begins. So, what's one thing you can be grateful for today, not because it's perfect, but because it's a part of the journey that's shaping you into the person you're meant to become? What if your greatest challenges are your greatest teachers? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive, especially when you're in the middle of a tough situation. But Stoicism offers a radically different perspective on adversity. It's not something to avoid or resent, it's a necessary part of growth. The Stoics believed that hardship isn't just inevitable, it's essential. It's through adversity that we develop resilience, sharpen our character, and uncover strengths we didn't know we had. This isn't about romanticizing suffering, it's about recognizing its transformative power. When we stop seeing adversity as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher, we unlock a whole new way of navigating life's challenges. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured slavery and exile, put it this way: difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Think about that for a moment. Challenges don't just test us, they reveal us. They strip away the illusions we have about ourselves and show us what we're truly made of. When you face a setback, it's easy to feel defeated, to think, why is this happening to me? But the Stoics would ask a different question: what is this trying to teach me? By shifting your focus from victimhood to curiosity, you transform adversity into an opportunity for growth. Take Seneca, for example. When he was exiled to the island of Corsica, he could have let bitterness consume him. Instead, he used that time to reflect, to write, and to deepen his understanding of Stoic philosophy. In his letters, he described exile not as a punishment, but as a chance to simplify his life and focus on what truly mattered. He even quipped that the island's harsh conditions were a reminder of how little we actually need to be happy. Seneca's story is a powerful reminder that adversity doesn't define us, it refines us. It's not about what happens to us, but how we choose to respond. Now, let's bring this into your own life. Think about a challenge you're facing right now, something that feels overwhelming or unfair. Maybe it's a setback at work, a strained relationship, or a personal failure. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Try asking, what can I learn from this? Is it teaching you patience, resilience, humility? Every challenge carries a lesson, but it's up to us to uncover it. By reframing adversity as an opportunity for growth, you take back control. You stop being a passive recipient of life's hardships and start becoming an active participant in your own development. Here's a practical exercise to try. Write down one challenge you're currently facing. Then list 3 ways it could help you grow, whether it's building emotional resilience, improving a skill, or strengthening a relationship. By identifying the potential for growth, you're not just changing your mindset, you're reclaiming your power. Adversity doesn't have to break you, it can build you if you let it. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship, they embraced it as a catalyst for becoming the best versions of themselves. When you adopt this mindset, you stop seeing life's challenges as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities. So, what's one lesson you can take from your current struggle? Because every time you face adversity with courage and curiosity, you're not just surviving, you're thriving, and that's where true growth begins. Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from letting go of outcomes. This principle, known as detachment, is one of the most liberating yet challenging aspects of Stoic philosophy. At its core, it's about releasing our grip on the results of our actions and focusing instead on the effort we put forth. When we tie our happiness or self-worth to specific outcomes, whether it's landing a job, winning an argument, or achieving a goal, we set ourselves up for anxiety, disappointment, and self-doubt. But when we detach from the results, we reclaim our peace and power, knowing that we've done our best regardless of what happens. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. What he's pointing to is the heart of detachment. We can't control the outcome, but we can control our effort, our attitude, and our intentions. By shifting our focus from the result to the process, we free ourselves from the weight of expectation and open the door to a deeper sense of fulfillment. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview. You've done your research, practiced your answers, and polished your resume. But as the interview approaches, you start to feel anxious. What if they don't like me? What if I don't get the job? This is where detachment comes in. Instead of fixating on the outcome, whether you'll be hired, you focus on what's within your control, your preparation, your mindset, and your ability to present your best self. When you detach from the result, you're no longer paralyzed by fear of failure. You're free to show up fully, knowing that you've done everything you can. And whether you get the job or not, you walk away with your self-respect intact. Here's another way to think about it. Detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about letting go of the need for a specific outcome to feel successful. It's about trusting that as long as you've acted with integrity and effort, the result, whatever it is, doesn't define your worth. This mindset doesn't just reduce anxiety, it empowers you to take risks, to try new things, and to grow without being held back by the fear of failure. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you overly attached to an outcome? Maybe it's a relationship you're trying to fix, a project you're working on, or a goal you're chasing. What would it feel like to let go of that attachment, not to stop caring, but to focus on the effort rather than the result? By practicing detachment, you're not just freeing yourself from anxiety, you're opening yourself up to new possibilities and a deeper sense of peace. Here's a simple exercise to try. Identify one area where you can practice detachment. Write it down and then ask yourself, what's within my control in this situation? What effort can I put in and what mindset can I adopt? By focusing on these things, you're not just detaching from the outcome, you're reclaiming your power to act with intention and integrity. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, freedom not from challenges but from the fear of how they'll turn out, and that's where true peace begins. Stoics know that time is our most precious resource, more valuable than money, possessions, or even opportunities. Why? Because unlike those things, time is finite. Once it's gone forever. This realization lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to see time not as something to be squandered, but as a tool to break free from the limiting beliefs that hold us back. When we waste time, we're not just procrastinating or avoiding work, we're reinforcing the idea that we're powerless, that we'll never achieve our goals. But when we use time intentionally, we shatter those illusions. Every moment becomes an opportunity to act, to grow, and to move closer to the life we want to live. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it bluntly, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This isn't just a poetic observation, it's a call to action. Time is short, yes, but the real tragedy isn't its brevity, it's how much of it we let slip away. Think about how often we fill our days with distractions, scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, or simply waiting for the right moment to start. These habits don't just waste time, they reinforce the belief that we're not capable of change, that our goals are out of reach. But what if, instead of waiting for the right moment, we decided to create it? What if we started using our time not as something to kill, but as something to cherish? Here's a practical example. Imagine you've been telling yourself for months that you'll start a new project. but you keep putting it off because you're too busy. The truth is, you're not too busy, you're just prioritizing other things. Maybe it's the endless notifications on your phone, or the comfort of routines that don't challenge you. Stoicism invites us to confront these habits head-on. It's not about working non-stop or sacrificing all leisure. It's about aligning your time with what truly matters. Instead of letting distractions dictate your day, you take control. You set boundaries, create focused blocks of time for meaningful work, and remind yourself that every minute is a chance to move forward. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. How are you spending your time? Are your days filled with purposeful action, or are they slipping away in a haze of distractions? Identify one area where you can make a change. Maybe it's cutting back on social media, waking up an hour earlier, or dedicating time each day to a passion project. The key isn't to overhaul your entire routine overnight. It's to start small with one intentional choice. Every time you choose to use your time wisely, you're not just breaking a habit, you're breaking a limiting belief. You're proving to yourself that you have the power to act, to grow, and to create the life you want. Time is more than a resource, it's a mirror. It reflects what we value, what we fear, and what we believe is possible. When we use it intentionally, we don't just change how we spend our days, we change how we see ourselves, and that's where true transformation begins. So, what's one way you can reclaim your time today? Because every moment you invest in yourself is a step toward freedom. Who in your life helps you see beyond your self-imposed limits? This is a question the Stoics would have asked themselves often, because they understood that community isn't just a nice to have, it's a cornerstone of growth. Stoicism might seem like a solitary philosophy at first glance, but it's deeply rooted in the idea that we thrive in connection with others. The people we surround ourselves with shape our thoughts, our actions, and ultimately our beliefs. When we're stuck in the grip of limiting beliefs, it's often because we're trapped in our own heads, replaying the same doubts and fears. But a supportive community can act as a mirror, reflecting back our potential and helping us see what we're truly capable of. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." While this quote is often interpreted as a call to self-reflection, it also points to the influence of those around us. Our thoughts aren't just our own, they're shaped by the people we interact with, the conversations we have, and the examples we witness. When we surround ourselves with virtuous, growth-minded individuals, their perspectives and values begin to color our own. They challenge us to think bigger, to question our self-imposed limits, and to act with courage even when it feels uncomfortable. This isn't about seeking approval or validation. It's about finding people who inspire us to become the best versions of ourselves. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about the power of a Stoic study group or a community of like-minded individuals who share your commitment to growth. These groups aren't just about reading texts or discussing philosophy. They're about accountability. They're about having people who will call you out when you're falling into old patterns, who will celebrate your progress, and who will remind you of your potential when you forget it. In a world that often feels disconnected, these communities provide a space to grow, to learn, and to challenge the beliefs that hold us back. They're proof that Stoicism isn't just a personal practice, it's a collective one. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're struggling with a limiting belief like, "I'll never be good enough." On your own, that belief can feel like an unshakable truth. But when you bring it into a supportive community, something remarkable happens. Someone might share their own story of overcoming self-doubt or offer a perspective you hadn't considered. Suddenly, that belief doesn't feel so fixed. It becomes something you can question, challenge, and ultimately release. This is the power of community. It doesn't just give us encouragement, it gives us clarity. Now, let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect who in your life inspires you to grow. Maybe it's a mentor who challenges your thinking, a friend who believes in you even when you don't, or even a stranger whose story resonates with you. Write their name down and then ask yourself, how can I lean on their support to challenge my limiting beliefs? How can I, in turn, be that person for someone else? Because the beauty of community is that it's reciprocal. We grow not just by receiving, but by giving. The Stoics remind us that we're not meant to navigate life alone. While self-reliance is important, it's in connection with others that we find the strength to overcome our deepest limitations. So, who's your mirror? Who reflects back the person you're meant to become? Because when we surround ourselves with the right people, we don't just break free from limiting beliefs. We step into a life of shared growth, mutual support, and boundless possibility. Stoics remind us that comparison is the thief of joy, a truth that resonates deeply in a world where it's easier than ever to measure ourselves against others. Whether it's scrolling through social media or observing peers at work, the habit of comparing can quickly spiral into self-doubt, envy, and a sense of inadequacy. But Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this toxic cycle. It teaches us to shift our focus inward, to measure our progress not against others, but against our own potential. By doing so, we reclaim our sense of self-worth and break free from the limiting beliefs that comparison fuels. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, offered a simple yet profound insight. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What he's pointing to is the futility of measuring ourselves against others. When we constantly compare ourselves to someone else's achievements, appearance, or status, we're not just chasing an illusion, we're ignoring our own unique path. Stoicism invites us to ask a different question, not am I as good as them, but am I becoming the best version of myself? This shift in focus doesn't just reduce envy, it empowers us to grow at our own pace without the weight of someone else's expectations. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing a friend's perfect vacation photos, a colleague's promotion announcement, or a peer's seemingly flawless life. It's easy to feel a pang of envy or self-doubt, to think, why isn't my life like that? But here's the Stoic perspective. Those images and updates are just snapshots, curated highlights of someone else's journey. They don't show the struggles, the sacrifices, or the moments of doubt. By comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, you're not just doing yourself a disservice, you're reinforcing the belief that you're not enough. Stoicism challenges us to reframe this habit. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? Try asking, what can I do today to move closer to my own goals? Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you catch yourself comparing, pause and take a deep breath. Then shift your focus inward. What's one thing you're proud of in your own life, no matter how small? Maybe it's a skill you've been working on, a relationship you've nurtured, or even just showing up for yourself on a tough day. By acknowledging your own progress, you're not just breaking the cycle of comparison, you're building a foundation of self-respect. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, and the urge to measure yourself against others loses its grip. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life do you find yourself comparing? Is it in your career, your relationships, or your personal goals? Now ask yourself, how can I shift my focus inward? What's one step I can take today to measure my progress against my own potential, not someone else's? By making this shift, you're not just freeing yourself from comparison, you're stepping into a mindset of growth and self-compassion. Comparison doesn't just steal joy, it steals potential. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-doubt, distracting us from the work of becoming who we're meant to be. But when we let go of the need to measure up to others, we open the door to something far more powerful, the freedom to grow at our own pace, guided by our own values and vision. This is the Stoic approach to comparison, not a rejection of others' success, but a celebration of your own journey, and that's where true progress begins. Stoics teach us that acceptance is the first step to freedom. It's a principle that might sound simple, but its impact is profound. Acceptance isn't about giving up or resigning yourself to fate. It's about recognizing what's beyond your control and finding peace in that truth. When we resist reality, we create unnecessary suffering. We cling to what should be rather than embracing what is. This resistance fuels limiting beliefs, convincing us that we're powerless or stuck. But acceptance breaks those chains. It allows us to stop fighting against the current and start flowing with it, freeing our energy to focus on what we can change. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most insightful voices, put it this way: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he's pointing to is the way our resistance amplifies pain. When we refuse to accept a situation, whether it's a setback, a loss, or even a minor inconvenience, we add layers of frustration, anxiety, and self-doubt. But when we choose acceptance, we strip those layers away. We see the situation for what it is, without the weight of what we wish it could be. This doesn't mean we stop caring or striving. It means we stop letting the uncontrollable dictate our peace. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you've just lost your job. The initial reaction might be panic, anger, or even shame. You might tell yourself, "This shouldn't have happened," or "I'll never find something better." But what if, instead of resisting the reality, you accepted it? What if you saw this as an opportunity to explore new paths, to reassess your goals, or even to take a much-needed break? By accepting the situation, you're not ignoring the difficulty. You're choosing to focus on what you can do next. This shift in mindset doesn't just reduce suffering, it opens the door to growth. Here's a practical way to apply this. Think about a situation you're currently resisting, something that feels unfair or out of your control. Maybe it's a strained relationship, a health challenge, or a missed opportunity. Now ask yourself, what would it look like to accept this reality, even if just for today? Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like the situation. It means you stop fighting it. By letting go of the struggle, you create space to take meaningful action. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming an agent of change. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. What's one situation in your life where you can practice acceptance today? Maybe it's a mistake you've been beating yourself up over, or a change you've been trying to avoid. Write it down and then ask yourself, how can I shift my focus from resistance to action? By embracing acceptance, you're not just reducing suffering, you're reclaiming your power to move forward. And that's where true freedom begins. What if true success is not what you achieve, but who you become? This is the radical question Stoicism invites us to ask, a question that challenges the way most of us think about success. In a world obsessed with external markers, wealth, status, accolades, Stoicism offers a refreshingly different perspective. Success, according to the Stoics, isn't about what you accumulate or accomplish. It's about how closely your actions align with your values. It's about virtue, integrity, and the peace that comes from knowing you've lived with purpose. This internal measure of success doesn't just free us from the relentless pursuit of external validation. It liberates us from the limiting beliefs that tie our worth to outcomes we can't fully control. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What he's pointing to is the heart of Stoic wisdom. True success isn't about the applause you receive or the wealth you amass. It's about the state of your mind, the quality of your character, and the choices you make when no one is watching. When we define success this way, we stop chasing illusions and start building a life of meaning. We stop measuring ourselves against others and start focusing on what truly matters, becoming the best version of ourselves. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine two people, one who spends their life climbing the corporate ladder, chasing promotions and paychecks, but feels hollow inside, and another who lives modestly but with deep integrity, kindness, and a sense of purpose. Who is truly successful? The Stoics would argue that it's the second person, not because they've achieved less, but because they've aligned their life with something deeper than external rewards. This isn't to say that ambition or achievement is wrong. It's about recognizing that these things can't fulfill us unless they're rooted in virtue. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, wrote extensively about the emptiness of wealth and status. He observed that even the richest and most powerful people often feel unsatisfied, constantly chasing more because they've tied their happiness to external measures. It is not the man who has too little, he wrote, but the man who craves more that is poor. This insight is as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Think about how often we chase success, more money, more recognition, more possessions, only to find that it doesn't bring the lasting fulfillment we hoped for. The problem isn't the desire for success, it's the belief that these external markers will fill a void they were never meant to fill. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect on your own definition of success. Is it tied to external achievements like a title, a salary, or a lifestyle? Or is it rooted in something deeper, like how you treat others, the effort you put into your work, or the peace you feel when you've acted with integrity? By aligning your definition of success with Stoic values, you're not just changing your goals, you're transforming your mindset. You're shifting from a life of chasing to a life of becoming. Here's a practical exercise to try. Write down your current definition of success. Then ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does it bring me lasting fulfillment, or is it tied to fleeting external rewards? If you find that your definition is too focused on outcomes, consider reframing it. What would it look like to measure success by your character, your effort, and your ability to live with purpose? This shift in perspective doesn't just change how you see success, it changes how you live your life. Stoicism doesn't just redefine success, it reclaims it. By focusing on what's within our control, our actions, our values, and our mindset, we free ourselves from the limiting beliefs that tie our worth to external measures. We stop chasing illusions and start building lives of meaning, purpose, and lasting fulfillment. So, what's your definition of success, and how can you align it with the Stoic values of virtue and inner peace? Because true success isn't about what you achieve, it's about who you become. Stoics know that silence is the birthplace of wisdom. In a world filled with constant noise, endless notifications, background chatter, and the relentless hum of daily life, silence is a rare and powerful gift. For the Stoics, it wasn't just the absence of sound, it was a space for self-discovery, clarity, and profound insight. They understood that in the quiet, away from the distractions of the external world, we can hear our own thoughts more clearly. It's in these moments of stillness that we uncover the beliefs that hold us back and begin to see the path forward with greater clarity. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The time which we have for our own is not small, we make it small." What he meant was that even in the busiest of lives, we have moments of quiet if we choose to create them. The problem isn't a lack of time, it's how we fill it. We often drown out the silence with noise, afraid of what we might hear if we stop to listen. Yet, it's precisely in those moments of quiet that we can confront our limiting beliefs, untangle our thoughts, and reconnect with our deepest values. Silence, then, isn't just a pause, it's a practice of liberation. Consider the modern world we live in. From the moment we wake up, we're bombarded with information, emails, social media updates, news alerts. This constant influx of noise doesn't just distract us, it reinforces the limiting beliefs we carry. When we're always plugged in, always consuming, we leave little room for reflection. We start to believe the stories others tell us about who we are, what we should want, and what we're capable of. But silence gives us the space to question those stories. It allows us to step back and ask, is this really true? Is this what I believe, or is this what I've been told to believe? Here's a practical way to bring this into your life. Try a digital detox. Even if it's just for an hour, turn off your phone, close your laptop, and step away from the screens. Use that time to sit in silence, to listen to your thoughts, and to reconnect with yourself. You might be surprised at what comes up. Fears you've been avoiding, ideas you've been neglecting, or even a sense of peace you didn't realize you were missing. This isn't about escaping the world, it's about creating a space where you can hear your own voice above the noise. So let's make this personal. Take 5 minutes today to sit in silence. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and simply observe your thoughts. Don't try to control them or judge them, just let them flow. What do you notice? Are there recurring patterns or beliefs that keep surfacing? This simple practice isn't just about quieting the external noise, it's about tuning into your inner world. It's about giving yourself the gift of clarity, even if just for a few moments. Silence isn't an escape, it's a return. It's a return to yourself, to your values, and to the wisdom that lies within. By making space for silence in your life, you're not just breaking free from the noise, you're creating a foundation for deeper understanding and growth. So take a breath, find your quiet, and let the wisdom of silence guide you. Because sometimes the most profound insights come not from what we hear, but from what we allow ourselves to hear in the stillness. Stoics see anger as an opportunity to practice self-control. At first glance, this might seem counterintuitive. Anger often feels like a force that takes over, leaving us powerless in its wake. But Stoicism offers a radically different perspective. Anger, like all emotions, is a natural response, but how we choose to act on it determines whether it becomes a destructive force or a catalyst for growth. Rather than letting anger fuel limiting beliefs like, "I'll never get what I want," or "people always let me down," Stoicism teaches us to channel it into constructive action. It's not about suppressing anger, it's about understanding it, mastering it, and using it to propel us forward. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." What he's pointing to is the danger of unchecked anger. It doesn't just harm others, it enslaves us. When we react impulsively to anger, we give away our power. We let someone else's actions dictate our emotions and our behavior. But Stoicism invites us to reclaim that power by asking a simple question: is this anger within my control? If the answer is no, if it's tied to someone else's actions or an external event, then the Stoic response is to let it go. Not because it's easy, but because holding onto it only hurts us in the long run. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're at work and a colleague takes credit for a project you've spent weeks on. The initial reaction might be rage, anger bubbling up, threatening to spill over into words or actions you'll later regret. But instead of lashing out, you pause, you take a deep breath and remind yourself, this person's actions are beyond my control, but my response is not. You choose to channel that anger into something productive, like documenting your contributions, having a calm, assertive conversation with your colleague, or even using the experience as motivation to set clearer boundaries in the future. This isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about transforming anger into a tool for growth. Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you feel anger rising, try the Stoic practice of pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what's really causing this anger? Is it the situation itself or the story I'm telling myself about it? Often, anger is fueled by unmet expectations or assumptions, beliefs like this shouldn't have happened or they should have known better. By identifying these underlying thoughts, you can challenge them and choose a more constructive response. Now, let's make this personal. Think about a recent moment when anger got the better of you. Maybe it was a heated argument, a frustrating delay, or a perceived injustice. What if, instead of reacting in the moment, you had taken a step back? What if you had used that anger as a signal not to lash out, but to reflect, to learn, and to act with intention? This is the Stoic approach to anger, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a teacher to be understood. So here's a challenge for you. The next time anger arises, don't let it control you. Pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what can this teach me? How can I channel this energy into something constructive? By mastering your anger, you're not just breaking free from a limiting belief, you're reclaiming your power to act with clarity and purpose. And that's where true growth begins. What if admitting your limitations is the first step to transcending them? At first, this might sound counterintuitive. After all, society often equates humility with weakness, as though acknowledging our shortcomings somehow diminishes our worth. But Stoicism flips this script entirely. Humility, in the Stoic sense, isn't about shrinking yourself, it's about seeing yourself clearly. It's the quiet strength of recognizing where you fall short so you can grow stronger. Arrogance, on the other hand, creates blind spots. It convinces us we already know everything, leaving no room for improvement. Humility, by contrast, opens the door to growth. It's the foundation of self-awareness, the starting point for breaking free from the limiting beliefs that hold us back. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this idea beautifully when he wrote, "The first step to becoming better is recognizing that you're not." This isn't a call to self-deprecation, it's an invitation to honesty. By acknowledging our imperfections, we create space to improve. Think about it. How can you address a problem you refuse to see? How can you grow if you're convinced you've already arrived? Humility is the lens that brings these questions into focus. It's not about tearing yourself down, it's about building yourself up, one honest admission at a time. Here's a modern example. Imagine you're a manager at work, responsible for leading a team. You might believe you're doing a great job. After all, you're hitting your targets and meeting deadlines. But what if your team feels undervalued or unheard? Without humility, you might never notice the disconnect. You might dismiss their feedback as unimportant or even blame them for not speaking up. But with humility, you're willing to ask the hard questions. Am I truly listening to my team? Am I creating an environment where they feel empowered to share their ideas? This willingness to reflect and adjust is what transforms a good leader into a great one. So, how can you practice this kind of humility in your own life? Start by seeking feedback, not just from people who will tell you what you want to hear, but from those who will offer honest, constructive criticism. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often a sign of growth. When you approach feedback with humility, you're not just hearing words, you're gaining insight. You're learning how to see yourself through the eyes of others, and that perspective can be incredibly powerful. Now, let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you benefit from a little more humility? Is it in your relationships, your career, or even your personal goals? Identify one area where you might be holding onto a blind spot, a belief or behavior that's limiting your growth. Then ask yourself, what would it look like to approach this with humility? How might admitting your limitations help you transcend them? Humility isn't about diminishing yourself, it's about expanding your potential. By embracing it, you're not just breaking free from limiting beliefs, you're stepping into a mindset of continuous growth. And that's where true transformation begins. So, what's one area where you're ready to practice humility today? Because every time you choose honesty over ego, you're not just admitting your limitations, you're unlocking the door to becoming more. Stoics know that resisting change only creates suffering. This bold truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to see change not as a threat but as an essential part of life. Whether it's a sudden shift in circumstances or the slow passage of time, change is inevitable. Yet, so often we fight against it. We cling to what's familiar, fearing the unknown, and in doing so, we create unnecessary pain. Stoicism invites us to let go of this resistance and embrace change as a natural, even beneficial force. It's not about ignoring the discomfort that comes with change, but about reframing it as an opportunity for growth. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, put it this way: every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. What he's pointing to is the cyclical nature of life. Change isn't just something that happens to us, it's the very rhythm of existence. The seasons shift, relationships evolve, careers transform, and so do we. When we resist this rhythm, we deny ourselves the chance to grow. But when we accept it, we open ourselves to new possibilities. This isn't just philosophical wisdom, it's a practical tool for navigating life's inevitable ups and downs. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you've just been laid off from a job you've held for years. The initial reaction might be shock, fear, or even anger. You might tell yourself, this shouldn't have happened, or I'll never find something better. But what if, instead of resisting the change, you embraced it? What if you saw this as an opportunity to explore a new career path, to learn new skills, or even to take a much-needed break? By adopting a Stoic mindset, you're not ignoring the difficulty of the situation. You're choosing to focus on what you can do next. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce suffering, it opens the door to growth. Here's a practical way to apply this. Think about a change you've been resisting, something that feels daunting or out of your control. Maybe it's a move to a new city, the end of a relationship, or even a shift in your daily routine. Now ask yourself, what's one small step I can take to embrace this change? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be as simple as reframing your mindset or setting a small, achievable goal. By taking action, even in a small way, you're not just adapting to change, you're actively shaping it. So let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. What's one change you're resisting right now? Write it down and then ask yourself, how can I approach this with a Stoic mindset? What's one step I can take today to embrace it? By shifting your focus from resistance to action, you're not just breaking free from limiting beliefs, you're stepping into a life of greater adaptability and resilience. And that's where true growth begins. Change isn't something to fear, it's something to welcome. It's the force that shapes us, challenges us, and ultimately helps us become who we're meant to be. So the next time you feel the ground shifting beneath your feet, don't fight it. Lean into it, because every change, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to step into a new chapter of your life. And that's the Stoic view of change, not as an obstacle, but as a path to becoming more. Stoics believe that simplicity is the key to clarity. In a world that often equates busyness with importance and complexity with sophistication, the Stoics offer a radically different perspective. True freedom comes from stripping away the unnecessary. Complexity, they argue, doesn't just clutter our lives, it reinforces limiting beliefs. It convinces us that we need more possessions, more commitments, more distractions to feel fulfilled. But simplicity cuts through the noise, helping us focus on what truly matters. It's not about living with less for the sake of it. It's about creating space for what brings meaning and purpose. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who valued discipline and self-mastery, put it simply: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. What he's pointing to is the power of simplicity to liberate us from the endless cycle of desire and discontent. When we pare down our lives to the essentials, we're not just decluttering our homes or schedules, we're decluttering our mind. We're removing the distractions that pull us away from our values and goals, and in doing so, we create the mental clarity needed to confront and overcome our limiting beliefs. Consider the modern example of decluttering. It's not just about tidying up your physical space, it's about creating mental room to breathe and think. When your environment is cluttered, your mind often feels the same way: scattered, overwhelmed, and unable to focus. But when you simplify, you're not just organizing your surroundings, you're reclaiming your ability to concentrate on what truly matters. This isn't about minimalism as a trend, it's about using simplicity as a tool for clarity and growth. It's about asking yourself, what do I really need to live a meaningful life? And letting go of the rest. Here's a practical way to apply this. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What's one area that feels unnecessarily complex or cluttered? Maybe it's your schedule, filled with commitments that drain your energy but don't align with your priorities. Maybe it's your digital life, with endless notifications and apps competing for your attention. Or perhaps it's your home, where physical clutter creates a sense of chaos. Whatever it is, identify one small step you can take to simplify. It could be as simple as unsubscribing from emails you never read, setting boundaries around your time, or clearing out a single drawer. The key is to start small, but start somewhere. Now, let's make this personal. What's one belief that's holding you back, a belief that might be reinforced by the complexity in your life? For example, do you tell yourself, I'm too busy to focus on my goals, or I'll never get organized? These beliefs thrive in chaotic environments, but they lose their grip when you simplify. By creating clarity in your surroundings and your schedule, you're not just making space, you're proving to yourself that change is possible. You're showing yourself that you have the power to act, even in small but meaningful ways. Simplicity isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's a mindset. It's about choosing to focus on what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. By embracing this Stoic principle, you're not just simplifying your life, you're reclaiming your ability to live with intention and purpose. So, what's one area of your life you're ready to simplify today? Because every step toward simplicity is a step toward clarity, growth, and freedom, and that's where true transformation begins. What if criticism is not an attack but an opportunity? It's a question that challenges our natural instinct to defend ourselves or retreat when faced with judgment. Criticism can feel like a blow to the ego, a reminder of our imperfections, or even a personal rejection. But Stoicism offers a radically different perspective. Criticism, when approached with the right mindset, can be one of the most powerful tools for growth. Instead of seeing it as something to fear or avoid, the Stoics teach us to see it as a mirror, a chance to reflect, to learn, and to become better versions of ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed." This quote captures the essence of the Stoic approach to criticism. It's not about blindly accepting every piece of feedback, but about being open to the possibility that there's truth in it. When we stop seeing criticism as a threat and start seeing it as a source of insight, we free ourselves from the fear of judgment. We stop letting the opinions of others dictate our self-worth, and instead we use their feedback to refine our actions and beliefs. Fear of criticism often stems from a deeper fear of inadequacy. We worry that if someone points out our flaws, it means we're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But Stoicism reminds us that this fear is rooted in a limiting belief, one that ties our value to external validation. The truth is, no one is perfect and no one gets everything right all the time. Criticism isn't a reflection of your worth, it's simply information. And when you approach it with curiosity rather than defensiveness, you transform it into a tool for self-improvement. Here's a modern example. Imagine you're a business owner and you receive a negative review from a customer. Your first instinct might be to dismiss it, defend yourself, or even feel hurt. But what if instead you paused and asked yourself, is there truth in this feedback? Is there something I can learn from it? Maybe the review points out a flaw in your product or service that you hadn't noticed. Maybe it highlights a way you can improve the customer experience by shifting your mindset from, this person is attacking me, to, this person is helping me grow. You turn a potentially discouraging moment into an opportunity for progress. So let's make this personal. Think about a recent criticism you've received, whether it was from a colleague, a friend, or even a stranger. What was your initial reaction? Did you feel defensive, hurt, or angry? Now take a step back and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Is there a kernel of truth in their words that I can use to improve? This isn't about accepting every critique as valid. It's about being open to the possibility that some feedback, even if it's hard to hear, might help you grow. Here's a practical exercise to try. Write down the criticism you've been reflecting on. Then, list 3 ways it could help you improve, whether it's refining a skill, adjusting a behavior, or simply gaining a new perspective. By reframing criticism as a tool for growth, you're not just breaking free from the fear of judgment, you're reclaiming your power to act with intention and integrity. This is the Stoic approach to criticism, not as something to fear, but as something to learn from, and that's where true growth begins. Stoics measure their legacy not by fame, but by virtue. This bold statement cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, challenging the way we often think about success and recognition. In a world that glorifies status, accolades, and external validation, Stoicism offers a radically different metric for measuring the impact of our lives. It's not about how many people know your name or how many awards you've won. It's about the quality of your character, the integrity of your actions, and the positive change you create in the world. The desire for recognition, while natural, can trap us in a cycle of limiting beliefs, convincing us that our worth is tied to what others think of us. But Stoicism invites us to break free from this cycle by focusing on something far more enduring, the legacy of our choices. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." What he's pointing to is the courage it takes to live a life of virtue, even when it doesn't come with applause or recognition. For the Stoics, true legacy isn't about leaving a mark on the world that others can see. It's about leaving a mark on your own soul. It's about living in alignment with your values even when no one is watching. This shift in focus from external validation to internal integrity is where true freedom lies. It's where we stop chasing the illusion of fame and start building a life of meaning. Here's a modern example to bring this idea to life. Imagine you're volunteering at a local shelter, serving meals to those in need. You're not doing it for recognition or praise. You're doing it because it aligns with your values. You might never make the news or receive an award for your efforts, but the impact you're making is real. The people you help feel seen, cared for, and valued. This is the essence of Stoic legacy, creating ripples of kindness and compassion that extend far beyond your own life. It's not about the spotlight, it's about the light you bring to others. Now, let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. How do you want to be remembered? Is it for the titles you've held, the wealth you've accumulated, or the number of people who know your name? Or is it for the way you made others feel, the values you stood for, and the positive change you created? Write down your answer. By clarifying your vision of legacy, you're not just dreaming about the future, you're creating a roadmap for the present. Every action you take today is a brushstroke on the canvas of your legacy. Are you painting with integrity, kindness, and purpose? Here's a challenge for you. Identify one action you can take this week that aligns with the legacy you want to leave. Maybe it's mentoring someone in need, standing up for a cause you believe in, or simply showing up for a loved one in a meaningful way. The key is to act with intention, not for recognition, but because it's the right thing to do. By focusing on the impact of your actions rather than the applause they might bring, you're not just living a Stoic life, you're building a legacy that endures. The Stoic view of legacy reminds us that the most meaningful contributions often go unnoticed. They're not measured in likes, followers, or awards. They're measured in the lives we touch and the values we uphold. So, what's one step you can take today to align your actions with the legacy you want to leave? Because in the end, it's not about how the world remembers you, it's about how you remember yourself. And that's where true fulfillment begins. Stoics know that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite it. This simple yet profound truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Fear, in its many forms, is a universal experience. It whispers doubts, magnifies risks, and convinces us to stay within the boundaries of what feels safe. But Stoicism challenges us to see fear not as a barrier, but as a signal, an invitation to grow. Courage, then, isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing to move forward even when fear is present. It's about recognizing that fear often exaggerates the risks and minimizes our ability to handle them. By acting with courage, we don't just overcome fear, we prove to ourselves that we're capable of more than we thought possible. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured slavery and hardship, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This insight is especially relevant when it comes to fear. Fear itself isn't the problem, it's how we respond to it that determines its impact. When we let fear dictate our actions, it reinforces limiting beliefs like "I'm not strong enough" or "I can't handle this." But when we choose courage, we dismantle those beliefs one step at a time. Courage doesn't eliminate fear, it simply refuses to let fear have the final say. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and a colleague presents an idea that you strongly disagree with. The fear of conflict might tempt you to stay silent to avoid rocking the boat. But what if instead you chose to speak up calmly, respectfully, but firmly? What if you trusted your voice even if it shook? That's Stoic courage in action. It's not about being confrontational or reckless. It's about acting in alignment with your values even when it's uncomfortable. Each time you do this, you're not just challenging the fear of conflict, you're proving to yourself that your voice matters. Here's a practical exercise to try. Think about a fear that's been holding you back, something that feels daunting but important. Maybe it's asking for a raise, expressing your feelings to a loved one, or even just saying no to something that drains your energy. Now ask yourself, what's one small step I can take to act on this fear? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be as simple as drafting an email, having a brief conversation, or setting a boundary. The key is to take action, no matter how small, because every act of courage builds momentum. So let's make this personal. What's one fear you're ready to confront this week? Write it down and then identify one action you can take to move through it. By choosing courage, even in small ways, you're not just breaking a limiting belief, you're building a foundation of resilience that will carry you through any challenge. Because courage isn't just a virtue, it's a practice, and every time you act despite fear, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than you think. That's where true growth begins. What if happiness is not something you find, but something you create? This question lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, which offers a refreshingly different perspective on what it means to be truly happy. For many of us, happiness feels like a prize to be won, something we'll achieve once we get that promotion, buy that dream home, or find that perfect relationship. But Stoicism challenges this idea, teaching us that happiness isn't tied to external achievements or possessions. Instead, it's an internal state, a sense of peace and fulfillment that comes from within, no matter what's happening around us. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, put it this way: "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This simple yet profound insight reminds us that happiness isn't about what we have or what others think of us. It's about how we choose to see the world and respond to it. When we chase external validation or material success, we often reinforce limiting beliefs like, "I'll only be happy when," or "If I don't achieve this, I'm a failure." But Stoicism invites us to let go of these illusions and focus on what's truly within our control: our thoughts, our actions, and our ability to find meaning in the present moment. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. The initial reaction might be frustration, anger, or even stress. But what if, instead of letting the situation dictate your mood, you chose to reframe it? What if you used that time to listen to a podcast you enjoy, reflect on your goals, or simply take a few deep breaths? This small shift in perspective doesn't just reduce stress, it creates an opportunity for happiness, even in a less-than-ideal situation. It's not about ignoring the inconvenience, it's about finding joy in the way you respond to it. Here's a practical way to apply this. Take a moment to reflect on your day. What's one small, simple moment that brought you joy? Maybe it was a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, a kind word from a colleague, or even the satisfaction of completing a task you've been putting off. These moments might seem insignificant, but they're powerful reminders that happiness doesn't require grand achievements or perfect circumstances. It's often found in the ordinary, everyday choices we make to appreciate what we have. So let's make this personal. Think about a recent moment where you created your own happiness, even if it was small. What did you do and how did it feel? By recognizing these moments, you're not just practicing gratitude, you're building a habit of finding joy within yourself rather than waiting for it to come from the outside. This is the essence of Stoic happiness, not a destination to reach, but a way of being to cultivate every day. Happiness, as the Stoics saw it, is a skill, one that we can develop through practice and reflection. It's about choosing to see the good, even in the midst of challenges, and recognizing that our peace of mind doesn't depend on the world around us. So, what's one way you can create your own happiness today? Because the truth is, you don't need to find it, you already have the power to create it, and that's where true fulfillment begins. Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of living, a toolkit for navigating life's challenges with clarity, courage, and purpose. Throughout this video, we've explored how Stoic principles like the dichotomy of control, cognitive reframing, and the discipline of desire empower us to break free from limiting beliefs. These aren't abstract ideas, they're practical tools that help us reclaim our power, focus on what we can control, and act with intention, even in the face of adversity. Stoicism teaches us that our beliefs don't define us, our actions do. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or the ideal circumstances. It's about taking responsibility for our thoughts, our choices, and our lives right here and now. At its core, Stoicism is a call to action. It reminds us that we have the power to shape our reality, not by wishing for things to be different, but by choosing to act in alignment with our values. Whether it's letting go of what we can't control, reframing obstacles as opportunities, or practicing gratitude for what we already have, Stoicism offers a roadmap for living with purpose and resilience. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, one small, deliberate step at a time. And every time we act in the face of fear, doubt, or uncertainty, we're not just breaking free from limiting beliefs, we're proving to ourselves that we're capable of more than we ever imagined. As we wrap up, let's turn to Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, for a final reminder of what this philosophy is all about. He wrote, "The greatest empire is to be emperor of oneself." This is the essence of Stoicism, self-mastery. It's about taking control of your mind, your emotions, and your actions, so you can live a life of integrity and meaning. It's not about conquering the world, it's about conquering the beliefs that hold you back, and that's where true freedom begins. Now it's your turn. What's one limiting belief you're ready to let go of today? Is it the fear of failure, the need for approval, or the belief that you're not enough? Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply these Stoic principles to challenge it. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small, consistent actions, and every step you take is a step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments what limiting belief you're ready to release and how you plan to take action. And if you found these Stoic insights helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more tools and strategies to live a life of purpose, resilience, and growth. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, the power to crush your limiting beliefs is already within you. All you have to do